Okay, so this is the Focus on the Future conference, and today I spoke on a panel about R&D and the future of transportation. And we had a panel of 5 that gave about a 10-minute presentation, and we had a lot of questions, and there was some dialogue with the audience. I mean, we're in a very transformative time in our industry, and I think just the rapid rate of change is really bringing to note a lot of the policies and tools that we need to be looking at to really help us manage through this change. And so when I was asked to be on this panel, I thought, okay, well, I need to kind of come up with big macro level topics. And so I immediately thought of dodgeball, right? Dodge, dip, duck, dodge, dive. So, you know, dodge is in there twice, kind of the same way as technology is in all these transformations that are happening within all the various aspects of what we do. It's affecting everything. And so when I think of kind of 5 big transformative factors that are happening around us in transportation, I think of land use and how land uses are changing, and how the tools that we use to assess land use, and obviously the land use transportation connection is so huge, and how design of transportation facilities affects land use and vice versa. But the land uses themselves are really changing. I mean, how people work, how they recreate, how they communicate, the kinds of tools that they're using to even communicate amongst one another are really rapidly changing how we look at an office environment, how we shop for retail, how malls are designed, how people live their everyday lives. And so the land uses and how we incorporate that into our transportation are really changing. So we need to really consider how do we look at the land use affecting transportation in terms of not just vehicle trips, but how people want to get there via bike or walking, and the multimodal aspect of it. The second one is obviously the demographic shift, the change that's happening between millennials and boomers and their needs and how different they are. And we talk about how boomers and the aging requirements that they have about managing their vehicles or getting to where they want to go to, and the promise of autonomous vehicles and how that could really take people to places they couldn't go before. I think of my own mother who no longer drives, and it'd be nice for her to be able to go places that she can't go now because she doesn't drive. And the promise that technology can bring to the boomers in terms of improving safety to the road, and the kind of programs that Rick was talking about with connected vehicles, and how obviously the people like Google and Apple and all these standing behind the design of their cars and saying that we will take all liability associated with the operation of these vehicles is a huge step forward and a huge opportunity to enhance the safety of our facilities. And then millennials and their needs, and it's a kind of a tidal change in terms of how they want to live, in this whole notion that Tom talked about earlier from Autodesk, and the urbanization, and how most people, the cities are becoming so much more important in terms of facilitating people's living. And we need better, more updated policies on how people, in how we define the land use and how we accommodate these different generational needs. And then thirdly, the funding. And obviously Tilly talked about congestion pricing and how that was rejected, and the various technologies that can be deployed to better fund our systems. And that's why we're here, the self-help counties, the local funding opportunities, and using technologies like smartphones and being able to really cross boundaries and achieve better funding and get more out of the technology to get more revenue to develop these kinds of infrastructure needs that we have. And then fourthly, I think about enterprise engagement as one of the major forces that are happening in transportation. And when I speak of enterprise engagement, I'm not just talking about public agencies, but I'm talking about the private industry and how TDM programs are being developed and used, and how incentives for people to not drive, to walk, to bike are being used. It's not just punishing people for sitting in congestion and pricing congestion, but it's also providing incentives for people. And there are lots of tools out there that enterprises are using to really monitor and track the consumption of transportation. I think of, as an employer, transportation is a benefit, much like healthcare, providing healthcare to your employees. And you want to be able to provide a good benefit, strong benefit that people understand, and so that they understand the true costs of transportation. I think that's one of the real challenges in our industry, has been that people don't understand the true costs of transportation. I think You know, Mark Hallenbeck from the University of Washington always says congestion is the breadline of the 30s. You know, it's basically it's a free service that's provided, and so people consume it at there's much more demand than there is supply, and so people are willing to sit in congestion. And we talk about connected vehicles, and what Salita was showing earlier, those pictures of sitting in the Mercedes or the Volvo and watching movies and drinking martinis. Obviously, removing the penalties for congestion has dramatic impacts on the design of our cities and how we get around as well. So the enterprise engagement is a big deal and a big transformation in our industry, and has the capacity to bring about real positive change on mobility for folks. And then lastly, obviously, is technology and the big data, and how small data, big data, all the kind of buzzwords that are out there, how transformative it can be in terms of the planning that we do. And I think from my own experience, working for small cities, working for local jurisdictions, and trying to better understand how people move in and about their cities. Cities like Los Angeles are obviously doing a lot of great things, but as Salita mentioned, a lot of these smaller cities have these opportunities now to get better data, to provide better planning, to accommodate a better infrastructure design. And the data is real time. It's 24/7. It's not just going out and doing a traffic count or doing some data collection on one day. The data is real time. We're getting it crowdsourced, and we're getting through many different means, whether it be from phones or it be from fleets, and all the kind of stuff that's becoming publicly available enables a much better planning process now, and enables us to really think about how we plan out for 20 years and what's going to happen 20 years from now, and the kind of technology and change that's going to occur. And you know, in our business, obviously, designing is kind of a step function. You make a design and you hope that lasts for 20 years. But in planning world now, we can do more dynamic planning, and it happens in real time, and we can adjust and accommodate accordingly. And those kinds of plans can be incorporated into the TDM programs that enterprises are engaged in, and having that public-private partnership really enables a much more efficient use of the infrastructure. And then finally, it's just the performance measures that we can develop through this technology. And talked about earlier, what's important to measure in our system. How do we look at things like greenhouse gas emissions? How do we look at and score more quantitatively things like connectivity and accessibility, walkability? We've been developing tools in-house at Transpo, GIS-related tools, to look at these kinds of things, to be able to measure the impacts of a particular project or an infrastructure design as it relates to greenhouse gas, as it relates to connectivity, and how it might improve the mobility for different generations as well. At the end of the day, you know, it's all going to be about leveraging the technology, using both public and private partnership to really bring about better planning tools, to bring about more flexible policies to accommodate the rapid change that's happening within our industry.